topic today is the effect of teaching metacognitive strategies on field-independent and independent learners, right? And this paper is from Social and Behavioral Science in 2014. Okay, my contents are including introduction, literature review, methodology, results, conclusion, and finally my reflection. First, I want to introduce you guys two terms of my study. The first one, metacognitive. This kind of strategies is a process to plan the learning and to think about the learning process and to monitor your learning strategies and evaluate your outcomes. And what is FD and FI? That is field-dependent and field-independent. Field-dependent is people who rely on the information provided from outer world. That means students need to have information by their teacher or some resources from internet. An introduction includes background purpose of study. Writing requires conscious effort and practice in composing, developing, and analyzing ideas. Therefore, second language learners usually encounter difficulties in developing their writing. So the purpose of the study, researcher wants to investigate the effect of metacognitive strategy instruction on the writing performance on field-dependent and independent intermediate learners. And there are two literature review: metacognitive strategies, field-dependent and field-independent. Anderson said that among learning strategies, metacognitive strategies are considered as the most essential ones in developing learner skills. And then these two researchers in 1991 say that among the various identified cognitive styles, field-dependent and independent have been suggested as potentially important in second language acquisition. And there are my methodology that include participant, instruments, materials, and procedure. In the participant parts, there are 62 male and female intermediate equal learners, and with age range from 18 to 35. And they study in language school in Tehran. And they are non-randomly selected by a PAT test among 17 learners. And the following instruments are utilized in this study. There are 5 instruments, and then I'm going to introduce one by one. The first one, Cambridge Preliminary English Test, we call PAT test. It was used to homorizing the same subject among all participants, and it tests 4 skills of English. They are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And the second group, embedding figure test, we call GEFT. The GEFT is a 25-item assessment to find out the geometric shape in a larger design. This test is in order to classify all the participants into field-dependent and independent. And a researcher only used 18 items in this study. And writing pre-test and writing post-test. All the participants have pre-test and post-test in the beginning and at the end. They have to write a 200-word composition in 40 minutes. And the first topic is the role of television in our daily life. And the topic of the post-test is the role of the internet in our daily lives. Next, rating scale of writing pre-test and post-test. It is the analytic writing rating scale by word. They are including 7 categories: relevance and adequacy of the content, compositional organization, cohesion, adequacy of vocabulary for purpose, grammar, punctuation, and spelling. All the categories are score 0 from 0 to 3. So the whole score a student can get are 21 points. And material, all the participants receive the same material by the same teacher. And the book they use is Top Notes Level 3. And students need to cover 3 units in this book. They are disaster and emergency, books and magazine, and invention and technology. The most important part is procedure because there are so many steps. 70 participants will test by the PET test. And in this study, 62 participants were selected, and they were divided into 2 groups by the GEFT. 30 participants in field dependent and 32 in field independent. And then researchers randomly select them divided into 2 groups: experimental group and control group. There are 14 field dependent and 15 field independent in experimental group, and 16 field dependent and 17 field independent in control group. So you can see that the number is quite nearly. And they have writing pretest of the role of television in our daily life, and it's scored by analytic writing scale by the WEARS scores. And then they receive the same materials by the same teacher. And at the same time, the only difference is that experimental group also has a 17 session within 6 weeks. So what do they do in these 17 sections? The first phase of the treatment. Teacher will introduce 3 main categories of strategies. They are centering the writing, arranging and planning the writing, and evaluating writing. There are 3 strategies in the centering the writing. They are advanced organizers, direct attention, selective attention. In this, students can use these 3 kinds of strategies to have pre-writing planning. They need to think about the content, what do they need to write. And in the arranging and planning and writing, students can use these 2 kinds of strategies to gather ideas from the resource they want to put in their assignment. And evaluating writing. After finishing their writing assignment, they need to evaluate their writing outcomes. And they can correct their grammar, punctuation, or vocabularies with each other. The second phase of treatment. A researcher wants to help them while they do writing tests. So he will ask them some questions about, is this topic clear to me, or does this topic really try to convey their message? And then free discussion about the different topics also necessary. So in this way, a researcher can arouse participants' interest and motivation on writing. And the weekly writing is also provided by the researcher. They are write letters, or they can write about a movie, what they like, or diaries. And at the end of the treatment, there is a writing protest. So the first result of this study is the correlation between the field-dependent student pretest and protest. And a researcher ran a t-test sample in this study. And you can see that there is a significant difference between the field-dependent student mean score on the pre-test and post-test of writing. That means they improve a lot after the treatment. And the second is the correlation between field-independent students between pre-test and post-test. And this t-test sample also show us there is a significant difference between the field-independent students mean score on the pre-test and post-test of writing. So you can see that field-dependent and field-independent students, they improve a lot after the treatment. And so you may curious about the relationship between the strategies and these 2 groups. You can see that a field-dependent student in experimental group, they got higher score, and feel independent school, they also got higher school than contribute. So, feel dependence and feel independent students in experimental groups show higher B score on the writing process and then control group. So the conclusion in this paper, the current study proves that metacognitive strategy instruction is fruitful and it can help to improve the writing performance of both field dependent and field independent. And then my reflection is that it's very important to encourage our students, especially yourself, ourselves, not to be afraid of writing, since there are lots of useful strategies can help us to overcome the encounter of the writing process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Yes, I want to share my final statement, and that is very in line with my one now. That is, the only people that you really have are your family, and because they love you no matter what.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Good for you. Thank you.